Hey, what is happening, you triple-sleeved Trubbish? So, Sao Paulo Regionals has come and gone, and we have a winner, Bruno, with Arceus Inteleon. And that's it, Arceus and Inteleon. No Zapdos, no Moltres, no this, no that, just Arceus and Inteleon. Kind of like the way Arceus was kind of built, or one of the early Arceus builds, I feel like, was Arceus Inteleon. First, it was like Arceus Duraludon, and then it was Arceus and Inteleon, and then from there, it was Arceus and Inteleon with B-Barrel and Moltres V and Zapdos V and all this other stuff, but Bruno kept it simple for Sao Paulo Regionals and just played Arceus and the Inteleon. And before we take a look at the list and kind of break it down and talk about all the cards that they did choose to play, it is a pretty straightforward list, but there is still some stuff to talk about, so we're going to get into it. I want to give a big shout out, as always, to Full Grip Games. If you guys ever need any cards or need to sell any cards or need any codes for PTCGO or PTCG Live, go check out fullgripgames.com for your cards and fullgripcodes.com for your codes. Yeah, check them out. And yeah, let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the list. Okay, so the first thing, of course, we got that 4-3 Arceus in here, of course, with the 280 HP and the Trinity Nova for 200 damage, and then accelerate 3 basic energy to your Pokemon in any way you like. And usually you're abusing Trinity Nova to put, you know, dark energy on some dark attackers, or maybe some fighting energy on your Zapdos or other fighting attackers or whatever. But in this deck, it's just to accelerate water energy onto your next Arceus. And that's it. And of course, we do play the water energy in here over any other type of energy, because I guess you could play some dark energy in here if you want to attack with Zigzagoon, because you can attack with the Shady Dealings Inteleon. More importantly, it opens up the option to use Melanie to attach a water energy from your discard pile and then draw 3 cards as some form of kind of consistent energy acceleration in the deck. Of course, this can be super helpful to just kind of set up an Arceus out of nowhere later in the game, but specifically on like that first turn of the game. Let's say you go first and you whiff that turn 1 attachment to your Arceus V, but you want to attack turn 2 with the Arceus V Star, then you can get the Melanie, use the Melanie to the Arceus V Star, maybe find the Melanie and the pieces you need to kind of combo the Melanie out. You know, got to get the water energy in the discard pile, got to get the Melanie, get that onto the Arceus, using that Star Birth ability on the Arceus, you know, to help find all the pieces that you need to put it all together, and then get attacking with an Arceus on the next turn with the Melanie and a DTE. So that's why the Melanie is in here. That's why you play the water energy in there as well. It also allows you to attack with the Aqua Bullet on the Inteleon, which is the only other really attacking option in this deck. I guess you could try and attack with like a Water Drip from a Drizzile, or a Waterfall from the Inteleon, or a Rollout from the Dunsparce. I don't think you're going to be doing any of that, though. So 4 Sobble, 4 Drizzile, 1 Quick Shooting Inteleon, 1 Shady Dealings Inteleon. So a thicker Inteleon line than we've been seeing recently in a lot of Inteleon decks, and a lot of the Inteleon lists, other Inteleon lists that weren't like the straight Inteleon builds played at Brazil Regionals, were playing kind of like a 4-3-1 Inteleon line. I saw a lot of that. A lot of people have been cutting the Quick Shooting Inteleon because it's not super relevant all the time. Of course, Shady Dealings Drizzile and Shady Dealings Inteleon are always super good to find whatever you might need throughout a game. So you're always bringing at least a 3-1 line of those along with the 4 Sobble. But the Quick Shooting Inteleon is something that you don't always need. It doesn't feel like it's always definitely necessary to include in the deck. It does have situations where it is pretty good. It opens up KOs on stuff like Arceus Vs. If you have like an Arceus V-Star set up with triple water energy, you can Quick Shooting an Arceus V, boss it up, knock it out with a Trinity Nova. You can actually even knock out an Arceus V that has a big charm by comboing Quick Shooting plus a Choice Belt on an Arceus V-Star that has 3 basic water energy and no DT on it, and you can do 250 damage that way. You can even do things like double Quick Shooting plays or triple Quick Shooting plays to KO stuff in matchups like against Rapid Strike Malamar. You could like triple Quick Shooting KO and Inkay off the bench by going like net the Inteleon, evolve it to a new Drizzile Quick Shooting, net it again, evolve it to a new Drizzile Quick Shooting, and then KO and Inkay on the bench. So you can do weird plays like that. That is a pretty high maintenance play and pretty hard to pull off, but it is possible. You can sometimes get the Zigzagoon involved in there, I guess, as well. More likely in that matchup, though, because you probably will be attacking with the Aqua Bullet from the Inteleon. At some point, you can go Aqua Bullet plus double Quick Shooting, which is a little bit easier to set up by going Quick Shooting to 1, Quick Shooting with the Inteleon, and then net resetting it onto another Drizzile to get off another Quick Shooting for 40, and then the Aqua Bullet would knock out the Malamar, and then KO and Inkay off the bench, and can sometimes completely wipe out all of your opponent's attacking options for the following turn in that matchup. So the Quick Shooting can be really good there. And then there's just other random weird situations that can occur where the Quick Shooting is nice to take KOs, especially when DTE is reducing your damage from the Trinity Nova by 20. So it's just a nice thing to kind of have. And we have so much space in a list like this, it's a little bit more easy to want to justify including in just kind of the straightforward Arceus Inteleon, I can definitely see why you'd want to take it out of something else if you're playing like the Moltres package in here and stuff like that. There's a 1 of Dunsparce in here to remove that fighting weakness from Arceus. A lot of Urshifu. Urshifu was pretty hyped going into this Sao Paulo event, so no surprise to see the Dunsparce included. And there's not just Urshifu, there's stuff like Zapdos, Urshifu. I guess those are really the main 2. There's not really much else besides Zapdos and Urshifu. Donphan was getting a little bit of hype about a week ago in online events, but it doesn't seem to have carried over very well. And then there's the Zigzagoon, which of course can help even out your numbers in a lot of awkward scenarios. The one big play that the Zigzagoon does allow you to make, though, is on turn 2 going first. If you're in the Arceus mirror match, you can actually boss up your opponent's benched Arceus V, and if you get a choice belt on your Arceus V-Star, even though you're doing 20 less damage from your DTE, so you're hitting for 210, if you get the Zigzagoon as well, you can actually KO your opponent's Arceus and put them in a really, really bad spot. So you can get super far ahead in the Arceus mirror match if you do go first with the good old Choice Belt Goon combo. Now, I do feel like this list in general is already pretty well equipped to get ahead in the mirror match, so you don't need a play like that to happen, but it's always nice to get super, super far ahead in any matchup. So the Goon does allow you to pull off that play as well. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other situations where the Goon's pretty good as well. 2 Research and 2 Marnie as the draw supporters. Research, of course, makes sense. Best draw supporter in the game. Why not include it? And then the 2 Marnie, I was actually kind of surprised to see that Bruno did not include a Judge in their list, because Judge is really good up against Mew VMAX when they use their Rotom Phone to set a Stadium on top of their deck. So if you go Path to the Peak plus Marnie, they're not going to draw into a Stadium card if you Judge it, or they're not guaranteed to draw into a Stadium card if you Judge them instead. But instead, Bruno, just sticking with the 2 Marnie, just wants to consistently see cards, and the little bit of disruption that you get off the Marnie is good enough. They felt like, I mean, in general, in most matchups, it's good enough. Against Mew, the Judge play isn't going to come up every single game. And probably won't come up very often, to be honest, overall. So I'm sure Bruno tested and felt like, well, I'd rather just get the extra card off Marnie more consistently, because the Judge play doesn't really happen ever, if ever. Or maybe they didn't even know about the Judge play or consider playing Judge in here for that scenario. Doesn't really matter. It's not a play that comes up that consistently. So I was a little bit surprised to not see it, but it's actually not that bad to not include, to be honest, overall. 2 Bosses Orders, of course. You always want to be bringing 2 Bosses Orders in pretty much at least 2 Bosses Orders in pretty much any deck. 2 Charon's Care. Now, this is a card that we've definitely been seeing less. People start to play less and less of, but as more and more Arceus decks kind of pop up and become more popular, I do kind of like the double Charon's Care, because when you combo it with the Pal Pad that's in this list, and that's also like something else you can use to combo with like your boss's orders or any other supporter in the deck, to be honest, is the Pal Pad. But Charon's Care plus 2 Pal Pad gives you a big edge, I feel like, up against other Arceus decks, and the only thing that can really match it is if your opponent's also playing 2 Charon's Care plus a Pal Pad, and then it kind of comes down to who goes first, as long as both people draw well. But having that as such a strong option in the mirror match, or up against any matchup, to be honest, being able to heal 4 times through Charon's Care is a lot, and can put you really, really far ahead depending on the situation. Like, even up against like a Mew VMAX deck, sure, you might not be taking knockouts on your turn, but if the Mew VMAX player isn't taking 1-hit KOs and just kind of punching your Arceus, even if they're ahead on the prize trade, they'll eventually fall behind if you just Charon's Care 2 or 3 times in a row. And that can be said for pretty much any matchup, including the mirror match, where you can just get super far ahead in that, especially when they can't get 1-hit KOs, even if they're running stuff like Zapdos V, if you have Dunsparce to protect you, and they're kind of just hitting your Arceus with their Arceus, and you're healing your Arceus, and you play more healing, or if they play no healing, then you're just going to be able to eventually get ahead in the prize exchange and just kind of take over the game, to be honest. So the 2 Charon's Care makes it so that it also decreases your chance of prizing a Charon's Care, which can be a problem if you do play one. So playing a ton of 1-ofs of a bunch of card can be a little risky, just for the fact that you will be prizing them, you know, some of the time. And if you prize them when you need them, it's not going to be very fun. So playing like 2 of cards definitely increases the odds of not being as big of a factor. There's the 1 Melanie. We already kind of talked about the usefulness of Melanie. And then the last supporter to kind of talk about is that Raihan. And the Raihan is super good because it can work in a situation where, kind of like Melanie, where if your opponent your opponent does have to take a knockout, but if you just don't have the energy in play on an Arceus on a turn, or if your opponent boss KOs an Arceus, then you can respond with something like a Raihan or a Melanie. So if you go first and attach a water energy to your Arceus and then pass, and that's your first turn going second, and your opponent on their second turn going first goes boss KO your Arceus, now you can respond with a Melanie or the Raihan. And with the Raihan specifically, you can go with like Raihan to an Arceus V, and then get the Arceus V-Star as your any one card out of your deck, evolve to the Arceus V-Star, and then use that Star Birth, find your DTE, find your switch card, find this, find that, whatever you might need, find it, use it, and can kind of take over the or get back into the game, I should say, from there. So the Raihan's super good for that. Also, it allows you to attack with the Inteleon with the Shady Dealings out of nowhere. So you don't have to kind of wait for a turn to be able to attack with the Shady Dealings Inteleon. You don't have to like sit there and attach twice to the Shady Dealings Inteleon to attack. You can just go Raihan, get the water out of the discard pile, maybe go find an energy, or do you have an energy in hand, and then you can kind of go from there and start attacking with that Aqua Bullet on the Shady Dealings Inteleon. For the Pokemon search, 4 quick, 4 level, 2 evolution incense, and 2 Ultra Ball. Nothing too crazy there. 2 scoop up net to get some resets on your Inteleons. Like I said, you can pull off those quick shooting plays, reuse the Zigzagoon with the headbutt, or just reuse your Shady Dealings Inteleon or your Drizzile to just get more value for whatever you need on your turn to get those KOs. Pal Pad, like I mentioned, recover your supporters, put them back in the deck, get them back out with the Shady Dealings, and use them again. 2 Big Charm to protect your Arceus Vs, turns Arceus V-Star from 280 HP to 310, which can be a big deal to stop knockouts from, like, especially in the Mew matchup, making them work a little bit harder for their KOs. Also, probably the most important reason to run the Big Charm is it protects your Arceus V, either whether it be in the mirror match or up against Mew VMAX. Making them work that little bit harder, or making it just so they can't even get the knockout on your V, allows you to set up those big plays with the Charon's Care, where then your opponent has to kind of attack into your active Arceus V-Star, and then you can just Charon's Care it on the next turn, reset that Arceus V-Star onto the Arceus V on your bench, and then continue your attacking and Charon's Loop game plan from there. So the Big Charms are super important. They're good on the Arceus V-Stars, but they're better on the Arceus V to help protect that from getting KO'd. And eventually that Arceus V will probably become a V-Star. But initially, putting it on your bench Arceus V instead of attaching it to your Arceus V-Star is usually the better play. And then 1 Choice Belt, because Choice Belt is a really good card to get those big plays with the Arceus V-Star. A couple of them I kind of mentioned as I talked through this list, but it allows, the biggest one is it allows Arceus V-Star to kind of KO other Arceus Vs before they become V-Stars. And there's, of course, other cute situations where it can come up and you can get some interesting knockouts as well. Stadium cards, 2 Paths to the Peak, and I did watch a lot of Bruno's games throughout the Top Cut as it was streamed on the Sao Paulo regional stream, and only 2 Path, but Bruno did use them pretty aggressively in the combo of Path plus Marnie whenever they could kind of set that combo up, and they used it quite a bit against Mew, and it worked out quite a bit of the time, to be honest. So the Path Marnie play was working for Bruno. Only 2 Path, only 2 Marnie, but that's 2 Path Marnie combo plays as long as you didn't prize a Path, and sometimes that's all you need to walk away with dubs against Mew. And of course in the mirror match you can use it as well to be a little bit annoying and potentially shut down your opponent's Star Birth. And that's one reason to include a stadium that is not Path to the Peak, so when you go up against the other Arceus decks, you have a way to bump Path to the Peak out of play and get access to your Star Birth guaranteed. But if you don't run this collapsed stadium and your opponent just opens up with a Path to the Peak, you don't really have time to ever play around it or play into it. You just get Path to the Peak, you lose access to your Star Birth, and then you could whiff an attack, or you could just be dead drawing from there if you don't have access to your Star Birth. So it's pretty important, I feel like, to have access to a way to move Path to the Peak, whether it be the collapsed stadium or the Pumpkaboo that a lot of people run. Just something, some way to move the Path to the Peak so you can get access to your Star Birth ability for the turn can make a huge difference. So I definitely love the Collapse Stadium here. Also, Collapse Stadium, still a decent stadium against Mew. Just carding one of their bench Pokemon means their Genesect will be drawing that much less on their next turn if they don't have a stadium to replace it, and then more Pokemon to replace in that bench slot. And also a good stadium up against Rapid Strike Malamar. You can pull off some really big plays against Rapid Strike Malamar with the Collapse Stadium, where you can go like Collapse Stadium into the turn, into the Aqua Bullet from the Shady Dealings Inteleon, and take 2 knockouts there as well, effectively removing 3 Pokemon off their board and potentially putting them in a spot where they can't even get a return knockout. So the Collapse Stadium can be really, really good up against the Rapid Strike Malamar, especially if they don't run a Tower of Waters, the Rapid Strike Stadium themselves, to then bump the Collapse Stadium on their next turn, and they have to constantly play with a 4 bench from there. It can get pretty rough for Rapid Strike Malamar. And then of course 6 Water Energy, like I mentioned, and the 4 double Turbo Energy. The other card that I'll mention that I'm surprised that wasn't including here is actually a Capacious Bucket. So the only way to really find energy with this deck is if you're not using Melanie to accelerate energy or Raihan to accelerate energy, then maybe find an energy, is Star Birth, to be honest, on the Arceus V-Star. There's no Capacious Bucket in here. You usually see a bucket in here. Of course, if you run other stuff like Moltres or Zapdos, you'll see an Energy Search in those kind of lists. But yeah, no Capacious Bucket when even when only running the Water Energy, I found pretty curious. But definitely want to do some testing with the deck to see if it's something that I feel like I'd want to include myself. But that's then another card alongside the Judge that I was surprised to not see included in the list. But like I said, super consistent, straightforward list. And when you combo that with a great player like Bruno, you're going to end up with pretty good results like winning regional championships. And that's the list that took down the Sao Paulo regional championships. I'll probably have some gameplay up with it on my second YouTube channel. There'll be a link in the description for that, so go ahead and check that out. It won't be up immediately when this video with the list goes up, but it should be up in a day or two. So yeah, go check that out over there. And that's going to do it for me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck list breakdown video of the Sao Paulo Championship deck played by Bruno. and I'll catch y'all in the next one.